Jofra Archer versus Surya Kumar Yadav, just like Karthik mentioned, has to be number 2. Player, I think, has been forced into the side because keeping in mind that Jasprit Bumrah is not part of it.
The thing I see with Gautam Gambhir is he had made a statement some time back saying that
Salt coming back to Eden would obviously scare India a bit coming into this particular series. And
Bethel's impact in Indian conditions will be also be cleanly monitored from everyone here.
Indian cricket is back, and we are back in the shortest format of the game. The white ball cricket begins because we're no more part of the WTC cycle, and you're not going to the home of cricket. It's time to focus on the T20 series, then followed by the ODI series versus England, and then move on to the big one, which is the Champions Trophy. I have Orko, I have Rohan, and I have Karthik with me, and it's the first time Karthik is part of our show in international cricket, rather. So, Karthik, first of all, I'll start with you. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the show. When you start about saying Indian cricket, and we did not have a good start to the year, and you have been part of it very closely, watching the final test, the pink test as we call it, at Sydney. When you came back home, did you bring any positive or negative memories from that place?
huge, a lot of positive memories. Despite the fact that India lost, I thought it was two good test matches that went up till the limit. I know this game got over on day 3. It was the biggest bummer of that tour. But otherwise, I had a lot of positive memories as a fan traveling for cricket, because you're never going to get this kind of an audience anywhere else in the world where you're going to have 60,000 people watching test match cricket. Plus 60,000
Absolutely.
plus.
And how was the crowd, to be honest, at MCG? We always hear iconic MCG, one of the best places to hear. Does it give any competitions to the other iconic stadiums?
I've been to Lords, I've been to Wanderers also before, and I've been to quite a few grounds in India over the last couple of years. I would say for Test match cricket, that vibe is usually felt. Let's say I think at Wankhede, I remember when I'd gone for the India New Zealand game, I saw a lot of support as part of another group that I'm part of, which is the North Stand Gang. But otherwise, in most of these venues, it's very quiet. And Lords is also, I think, for an England West Indies game I'd been to, but MCG is special, man. 90,000 people coming up. You're walking with somebody who's wearing a 1994 jersey. They know the jersey. They know the games that happened in that WSC season. Over beer, having a lot of conversations over cricket. As a mahol, it's very, very rare. So I think it's like a temple of cricket where you get to meet with a lot of fans, share experiences, and then make new friends. So that way, I think, yeah, super impressed with the facilities for sport. Yeah, I just hope we are able to do that, because India is the future for cricket, and I'm just hoping
Absolutely.
that some of our stadiums can take that and improve the experience. Because I would look forward to the same experience at some of our iconic stadiums like Wankhede, Chepauk, Chinnaswamy, Eden Gardens, some of those stadiums.
Absolutely, yes, that is true. The India is the future, and let's hope that Indian cricket, the Indian stadiums, like you mentioned the names already, let's hope that we live up to the hypes. Though we do, but if that's not enough for an Indian fan saying about that, that needs to be looked into. But Orko, coming back to you, focusing on this T20I series, your IPL team has recently lifted this trophy at their own den, and it's the Kolkata Knight Riders. Eden Gardens is hosting the first T20I game, India versus England. We saw the Indian squad getting announced also very soon. So, your thoughts about overall the squad selection? First of all, thoughts on the pointers coming out. Karun Nair, did he really deserve? I know he scored bulks of runs in domestic cricket, but in place of whom?
exactly. I mean, that's the question that anyone would ask, even Karun Nair for that matter, as to who will he replace or who will he come in place of. So certainly the competition in Indian cricket is very huge. I mean, every spot is up for grabs and everyone is equally capable of replacing or, doing better than the other. So I think the recent, the PR agencies or people, whatever they talk about certain players or certain teams have been activated to, back certain players or push certain players. We saw a period of that happening to Sarfaraz as well, in which his domestic credentials were, highlighted excessively. And the same's happening with Karun. Of course, he does deserve a look in, but is it really possible right now? I'm not really sure about that. But given the fact that our test team is in a bit of a doldrum, I think they may look at him in the near future, especially in that middle order aspect.
Okay, you're talking about the red ball format more than the white ball, to be honest. We'll see what happens with Karun Nair in the domestic circuit with the red ball, because we have, I would say, one of the most important rounds to look into the Ranji Trophy, because most of our international players are playing in the Ranji season now. Rohan, coming to you, another player that needs to be looked into is part of the squad now, welcoming back Mohammad Shami. He's back in his own den, playing at home at the Eden Gardens. Probably he's going to be in the 11 as well in the first T20. A player, I think, has been forced into the side because keeping in mind that Jasprit Bumrah is not part of it.
More, I think the kind of performance he dished out in the Mushtaq Ali as well as the Vijay Hazare rounds of few, I think that warranted a comeback. Yes, as Indian fans, maybe we missed him at the BGT, maybe as a support bowler to just see would have turned the tide in a different way. But end of the day, he's been a world class performer ever since that 2023 World Cup. I think being the highest wicket taker ever since, and he hasn't played for India for the past year or so. I think his wicket taking ability was sorely missed. I think the kind of performances he has dished out, I think that merited a place rather than not having Justy alone. So I think experience is what does matter in any kind of games, man. And Shami's experience can't be bought. Yes, the other youngsters have done reasonably well, but having an experienced guy at the other end bowling will only enhance your performances, is what I feel. So, rightly, Shami coming in, not just for T20, I think the one day squad as well, and the CT. Overall, I think it augurs well for the Indian team in the coming days.
Absolutely, that's good sign for Indian team because Mohammad Shami is part of the Indian squad for the Champions Trophy. But Karthik, now is something just like Rohan said about the positive of Mohammad Shami coming to the side. Similarly, Mohammad Siraj, rather we say DSP Siraj, has been chucked out of the squad. That's surprising to say because we all were thinking of the 2023 ODI squad more or less getting picked in the Champions Trophy. Similarly, Jasprit Bumrah is not there for the England series, but how important what is the thought process, because I keep on hearing, and I must admit I'm also part of that when I say this. Harshit Rana is getting prioritized way too more from Gautam Gambhir compared to the others, Mukesh Kumar, and there are other players as well. Is there the KKR quota out there? And thoughts on Mohammad Siraj getting chucked out?
One thing I see with Gautam Gambhir is he had made a statement some time back saying that he doesn't look at analytics when it comes to team selection. He goes purely on what he is eyeballing, and some of his selections have turned out to be useful. For example, Washington Sundar in the Pune Test match, he had just played one
Absolutely.
Ranji game, and with that one Ranji game, basis a few wickets and a few runs, Washington Sundar was selected in the side. There are
And
people.
did I'm sorry to interrupt, but did his selection for Ravichandran Ashwin, the great man, to retire?
It did. I think that's what I hear from reports that in the first test, as Washington Sundar was preferred for Ravichandran Ashwin, which I thought was fairly something that India, whenever they go abroad, Ravichandran Ashwin is not your default option. He has ceased being their default option. We're happy to have someone like Ravichandran Ashwin. See, you are always looking at it relative to the fact that when you go to a place like Australia, or even in the way the result-oriented pitches in India are there, they know that our top order will not perform because your top order doesn't have the kind of strength. It's not going to go
Correct.
score 60, 70 runs a wicket. These wickets are result oriented wickets, so 20, 30 is the amount of runs that the top order is expected. So as soon as your 30th over gets over, you need a stronger middle and lower order, and that these kind of pitches are necessitated that you pick bowlers who can bat. And as a result, due to these combinations, Ashwin misses out. And even when you go to Australia, I never thought Ashwin was our number one lead spinner in all options. In fact, I was interested to see Washington Sundar come in because Washington Sundar is a top order batsman for Tamil Nadu. He opens the batting. Washington, and he played very well in the Melbourne Test match along with Nitish Reddy. He needs some time to also blossom as a player. But getting back to your question, Gautam Gambhir makes certain left field choices, and he probably wants his space for making that. But what we've also seen is some of these left field choices look a little bare because when you pick someone like Harshit Rana for the Adelaide Test match, he leaked a lot of runs. Because ideally in Australia, the way you allowed someone like Travis had to dominate, otherwise somebody who has very little experience. And
Correct.
Adelaide was a track which true bounce. At least you're in Optus Stadium, you had a lot of differential bounce due to which Australia couldn't play their normal game. Someone like Harshit Rana was able to, had that difference. We kept aside somebody like Prasidh Krishna till the fifth Test match, and then we didn't use somebody like Prasidh Krishna. So I think in the need for sounding very cool or making these off-field decisions, I think some basic decisions are probably not being seen, which otherwise
Correct.
analytics could have avoided. That, as you say, you use DRS so that bloopers are avoided, right? That way, I think there are some decisions which I can't explain. Even with, for example, you were talking about Rohan was talking about Mohammad Shami. I think they did not go for Mohammad Shami simply because they're not sure will this guy break down in the 40th over of a Test match,
Absolutely.
because it's happened with Zahir Khan in the England tour. And once that happens, right, you're handicapped for the whole match. And even now, T20 is 4 overs. ODI is again 10 overs. They'll probably want to see how much Shami's body is able to last. Because there's one thing trying to do it in Vijay Hazare Trophy or in any of the other games, the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy that happened. But to do that consistently with international pressure and
Absolutely.
higher quality bowling, I think that's going to be a differential. With Mohammad Siraj, I think his form, as much as Siraj got back into rhythm in the second innings of the Melbourne Test match, you still felt that Siraj, for his experience, and we've seen this even with Ishant Sharma, for somebody played 60, 70 Test matches, sometimes you go off the boil and you're not the leader of the pack kind of a thing. I think it'll be a good break for Siraj to also come back, because if Siraj sees every other side like the way Sri Lanka see him, he's going to be a threat. But that doesn't happen. Because again, Sri Lanka in 2023, right? 3 matches he played, 7 wickets, 6 wickets, and 5 wickets in January, October, and November. So when you have that kind of in the Asia Cup, then you had one ODI series and then back in the World
Absolutely.
Cup.
Wankata, yeah.
So Siraj, I think, needs to have that kind of a leader in the pack mentality. Needs to come back stronger. I think it's just a message for him to pull his things together such that we're able to get the better version of Siraj. We've seen that happening with
Absolutely.
Siraj.
And I think that's where, when you talk about Mohammad Siraj, in the recent past, I've seen since the time he's decreased his run up, I think that's where he's dipped his form, to be honest. He's not getting that rhythm when it comes to bowling with full throttle. And I think Mohammad Siraj decreasing his pace a little bit. Line and length inconsistency is also there, where I think personally that it's a good break, like you mentioned, for Mohammad Siraj. Not take it otherwise that he's not going to play an IC tournament, but he can come all guns blazing because we need Mohammad Siraj. But if you talk about the England squad now, Orko, there are a few names that needs to be looked into the underrated character, I must tell you. But firstly, Phil Salt is back at his place where he made carnage in the 2024 season. Thoughts on that, Phil Salt at Eden Gardens?
Well, certainly a sort of a homecoming because this is a ground which he has been very familiar with, and he has done very well. As a very wonderful opening pair with Sunil Narayan, and that set the tempo, the tone which was needed for KKR to go after every team in this highly triumphant tournament which they had. So I think Phil Salt coming back to Eden would obviously scare India a bit coming into this particular series, and he's also coming in with some good form. So I think that he'll be a factor that India will be worried about.
Absolutely. And similarly, for another player, I think he's the future of England cricket, like we said for Harry Brook, Jacob Bethel, Rohan, with the bat, with the ball, with the field as well. Terrific cricket, I must tell you. All three format player.
Good youngster coming up. I think recent BBL also he did reasonably well, and in the Test series that preceded against New Zealand, very much a left field selection from the England team. I felt, but he did really well in those Test matches against some good quality bowling. So I think Jacob Bethel, being a youngster, as you rightly said, can be a future star for England. Not to forget, I know I don't want to bring it in, but RCBNs will also be having a keen eye on him because just like Phil Salt, as you said, I think Bethel's impact in Indian conditions will be also be cleanly monitored from everyone here.
Okay, so you have just drifted towards the IPL because RCB fans will be watching it closely. But Rohan, sorry, Karthik, I'm coming to you. One player I missed out from the Indian team. When you talk about T20 cricket in the recent past, this man we talk about mystery spin. Varun Chakravarti had a fantastic T20 series against South Africa. He's back. He's backed. Similarly, Sanju Samson. I often hear this memes going around. Whichever format tournament is on the year, the opponent format Sanju Samson plays, to be honest. Thoughts on that, missing out on the Champions Trophy squad? Sanju Samson, did Rishabh Pant deserve it? Similarly, and one more, Jamie Overton. What's your thought on his inclusion in the side?
Right, I'm going to go sequentially. First, I think the point that Orko and Rohan just spoke about. I think as much as you guys have spoken about the batters, right? To me, the person from England really to look out for is Saqib Mahmood. He's been bowling very well against West Indies in the recent T20 series. Happened around the same time that India went to South Africa, around that November first, second week or so. And I think England also have Jofra Archer now coming back. And
Correct.
in both the games that Jofra Archer, I think he played, maybe he didn't play all the games. He just played a couple of
No,
games, I think.
absolutely.
Played a couple of games, and I think he had like 1 for 25 and 1 for 31, and these were games where England chased 160, 155 odd in 15, 16 overs, but they restricted West Indies to 150, 60. So having somebody like Jofra Archer back means that you're going to give 4 overs 25, which is 25% of your bowling resources, and you're just going to give 6 an over. I think it's a huge advantage. And Saqib Mahmood's been in the mix, picking wickets along with someone like Rehan Ahmed, who had come back who had made his I wouldn't say debut. He played in Pakistan, Rehan Ahmed, but when Rehan Ahmed, very briefly was part of the Test series tour that was there in India in early 2024.
Correct.
One got to see his loopy leg breaks in Hyderabad, and also in Vizag. So that way, I'm happy to see that England have like an attacking option with respect to these bowling options that are there. I know that attention sometimes goes to the batters, but I think even as much as you mentioned Phil Salt, right? I don't think it's just about a player and a location. That's usually how we look at it. But it depends on the kind of surfaces that are dished out. Because if you are having a 150, 160 kind of a surface, the people who are going to bat really well are going to be the people in the middle order because you would have some part of the spike moving. Recently, we lost to Tristan Stubbs. And the only game that India
Correct.
lost was I think when South Africa collapsed from 80 odd for 1 to 90 for 7 or something like that, and Tristan Stubbs came 40 odd in the last 2 3 overs and then won that game for them. So I think it depends on the kind of surfaces that are going to be on offer. Against Bangladesh, we kind of went to cheat code mode. It's like book cricket basically, where you had these 200 plus kind of surfaces that were available. But yes, now going back to the second part of your question in terms of Sanju Samson, I think because Sanju Samson, and it goes back to another point which some of you guys are mentioning, most of these players who are there in the fringe or your top 20, 25 are good enough to play. But in this
Mhm.
case, Sanju has been getting opportunities. He's played well against Bangladesh. There is no reason to drop him. But in the ODI scheme of things, the only time Sanju really played for India was when prior to the World Cup when India played in South Africa in November 2022. Sanju Samson played as part of the ODIs there, and he was always a replacement player. Sanju Samson was not Even someone like Ishan Kishan, who's a wicketkeeper batter, is not getting his due in the ODI side. So I think
Correct.
he was left out because he was just a marginal pick. You had similar players. You couldn't pick Sanju Samson anywhere else in that squad. I think it's a fair call. There is really no space for someone like Sanju Samson, and of course, there's definitely no space for someone like Karun Nair in this current scheme of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think to me, the series I'm looking forward to because it's two sides that are coming in with very, very similar mentalities. At least with England, I think the last 5 games, England have won four, India have won four.
Mhm.
Both, have this whole thing where there's a renaissance uh, in their whole T20. England won the T20 World Cup in 2022. In 2024, despite having a lull in between, they came up
Mhm.
to the semi-finals and they had like one bad game in the semi-finals against us. But I think both these sides are high quality, white ball sides. Just that in ODIs, maybe England has fallen off the radar a bit from the highs of that 2019 World Cup win. 2023 was really bad for them. But yeah, from a T20 short format side, I am just curious to understand on a 140 type of wicket who are these players are going to stand up, because on a 220
Absolutely.
kind of a wicket, I know that England's batting will definitely do that. England recently lost a 220 odd game against West Indies, where West Indies ended up chasing that. And
Yeah.
there, when I look at it, I think West Indies, their slow left arm orthodox bowlers bowled very well. Gurkesh Moti and
Moti.
Akil Hussain, like he had a 4 wicket haul, and they were also able to go, keep it to like 17, 18 runs in a 4 over spell. So that way, I think for someone like India, because Akshar Patel is your default slow left arm orthodox option, I'm curious to see how that goes. And I don't know if Abhishek Sharma even bowls these days, because back when he made his IPL debut for
Yeah, he
Sunrisers,
bowled.
he bowled slow left arm orthodox bowling. But yes, I think because I see it as a weakness, because someone like Akil Hussain is not like a world beater bowler. He's just somebody who's line and length, who's drifts the ball in the first few overs with the new ball. So I'm curious to see how England come against slow left arm orthodox bowling, just as a pattern from what I observed against Gurkesh Moti.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all the analysis, to be honest. But I'll give you a breather. Talking about you went sequin wise. There was another question added. I'll give it to Orko. Orko, thoughts on how underrated you think about Jamie Overton?
Well, he has been in phenomenal form. I think even in the recent BBL, he was, doing pretty well. Of course, the strikers didn't have a very great tournament, but he was someone who did very well for them. And also in the county circuit, he has been someone who's been doing, reasonably well with the bat as well as the ball comes in and hits a few good blows down the order, bowls at the death as well, some proper yorkers. He's got some decent amount of pace variations as well. So he's a fine. Of course, people didn't expect this to happen because when he came into the side, he was more of, that test cricket kind of bowler, that line and length based bowler. But from there, he, adapted and, became a much better T20 or you can say a white ball bowler in total. So he's someone who has risen in the ranks from the last, 18 to 24 months. And it's, of course, a very good sign for England, given that, as we previously also talked, their bowling certainly has a bit of a problem. And to have someone like him certainly sorts a lot of problems, especially at the death.
Absolutely, it does, to be honest. But now the venue is at the Eden Gardens, and we all know that Eden Gardens recently has been a batting paradise, to be honest. So, Karthik, I'll take that pointer from you, and I expect it to be a run fest, to be honest, at the Eden Gardens. But thoughts on the key players to watch out for? And I was about to bring this person into the picture, just like Karthik mentioned already. For England, it's going to be Jamie Overton, Phil Salt, and Saqib Mahmood for me, Rohan. And for India, Karthik, I'll go for Hardik Pandya. Rinku Singh is another player that's playing at the Eden Gardens, and Mohammad Shami are the three players I'll watch out for. Starting with you, Rohan.
Good choices, but I am looking more at Varun Chakravarti, the kind of season he has had previously at KKR, and also the recent Vijay Hazare also, though it's a 50-over format, but kind of mystery spin and wrist spinners, they do well against England, so I'm backing him to be a kind of a game changer. He recently had a decent tour of South Africa as well. He picked up
Mhm.
wickets, got those big hitters out consistently. So I think England is also of a similar batting kind of a side where people are big hitters. They don't know how to really defend a ball, let's be honest. So if you start creating a bit of doubts in their minds, they are waiting for your picking. So someone like Chakravarti spell, somebody else at the other end can also benefit and pick wickets. So I think Indian bowlers have to hunt in a pack to restrict this England lineup, or else again, as Karthik said, 200 kind of pitches will be a norm in this day and age. So every run saved by taking a key batter out will be good enough for this team. Along with it, one more guy I like to add on here is Sanju Samson, because as you said, will be kind of a burning bit inside. He has been practicing in the UAE with his mentor Rahul Dravid there, so I think he'll wanting a few maybe critics to shut up a bit, make a bit more deserving case for him in the coming games. So I think Sanju will
You're
also be a
saying
guy to watch out for.
he will. So you're saying he will keep on working hard in case there's a niggle for KL Rahul or Rishabh Pant.
I didn't want to use that word this episode, sorry, Rhythm, because you never know what can happen these days, because the amount of cricket and the kind of pressure people do expect from you. You never know when somebody can pick up that word that I like to use, or sometimes get out of form as well. You never know those things. So good to be in among the runs and having a priority in your selection case in case something happens. You should always be in form, I feel. So that's the way I think as a player, if in case you're not picked for a certain squad, you can only answer it best is by letting your game do the talking. So I think
Absolutely.
Sanju is the best way. I think we have seen a day in day out in a lot of tournaments previously. Also, he's answered it pretty well. I think this one more time he can do it for us. for. I think also he's an ex-KKR, so I think knows the conditions also pretty well. And as Orko rightly said, it's a good batting surface. We know previously he's got those hundreds there in South Africa and against Bangladesh. So I think coming from good form and good practice, I hope he silences a few more there.
Okay, so another person that has said about the conditions. Karthik, over to you for England, and if anyone for India as well.
See, again, the players that I'm really looking forward to are Akshar Patel, simply because of the slow left-arm orthodox threat. And I think,
Mhm.
as you said, even with Hardik, right, he's gone a little bit under the radar, but Hardik's been very easily coming, taking a wicket or two, and also scoring runs. But yeah. So for me, the three people to watch out for from India would be Hardik, Akshar Patel, and I'm really curious to see Abhishek Sharma. He's fallen a little bit off the radar since that 100 at Harare. So I'm wanting to see Abhishek Sharma, bat in that fearless. I think in one of the
Correct.
games against Bangladesh, he did score a 50, where Sanju scored like a big 100. So that way, I'm wanting to see Abhishek Sharma prove himself against a high quality opponent, because
And
that is
he gave a blistering start for the Sunrisers at the game at versus Kolkata Knight Riders at the Eden Gardens, which eventually Harshit Rana won it in the final over against Henry Klassen. I think he might like batting at this surface.
sure. You guys are looking at a lot of nostalgic history, which is just about years old. But yeah, I'm just thinking, when did that game happen? Because there's been so many games in recent times that I'm not able to quite remember this particular game that you're talking about. But yeah, the other that's what I'm expecting from India as such. But if I were to go to because one of the things which, like, Abhishek Sharma, if he scores against a quality opponent, if you remember right, when England came back to India for a white ball series,
Mhm.
Surya Kumar Yadav made his debut then at that point of time.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Ball was a flick at Ahmedabad off Jofra
It,
Archer,
it, it was the lockdown time, yeah.
and that was his entry into white ball cricket, saying, "I'm ready for you guys." So I'm waiting to see which Indian youngster is wanting to pick up that kind of an opportunity against a high quality opposition. For England, again, as I said, really interested to see how somebody like Liam Livingstone, because Liam Livingstone is a very ordinary bowler, and recently in West Indies, I think he went for 30 runs in an over. So on these 200 type wickets, really not convinced England's all-rounder strategy really helps them, because this kind of if you don't have high quality bowling on a 200 type surface, somebody like Liam Livingstone is more a liability. But if he's actually able to invent himself, because on wickets with a little bit of help, like Glenn Phillips found out,
Absolutely.
he's able to
He
come.
bowls both left leg spin and off spin. Yeah.
So that way, I think someone like Liam Livingstone may come into effect if your wickets are slightly balanced. You're having a your usual 140, 160 kind of wicket, which are pretty rare because the world is flat as it comes by. Everywhere you're having these 200 type surfaces. But I was curious to see how would the differential in performance be for somebody like Liam Livingstone, who's otherwise perceived as a very valuable T20 player. Saqib Mahmood, given the form he is in. And of course, I'm just curious to see, because earlier England had Adil Rashid as a leg spinner in T20 trying to take wickets. Can Rehan Ahmed come and do the same job for them that Adil Rashid had done? So I'm curious to see these three. Not that I'm not a fan of being a batter, but I'm curious to see how bowling can win you games in T20, which is why my picks are largely divided into the all rounder and bowlers.
Absolutely, but just to let you know, Adil Rashid is still there in the squad of the England team. So we will have to see who does England back, to be honest, starting with the tournament. But yes, Rehan Ahmed is also there. But moving on to the battles to watch out for Orko, the three I have chosen for, I'm going with Saqib Mahmood versus Sanju Samson at the top of the order. Jofra Archer versus Surya Kumar Yadav, just like Karthik mentioned, has to be number two. And I'm going for Josh Butler versus Arshdeep Singh as number three.
Well, certainly those are the battles which will obviously define the game for both the teams, and I think Butler obviously has a bit of a history in Eden because that he was limping apart, and he continues and somehow just wins the game in for his IPL team, and I think he's someone who is no stranger to this ground, the conditions, so he'll obviously have a huge point to prove coming in, and I'm not sure which position he'll be batting, but wherever he is, of course he'll be a big threat, and Arshdeep again would be the one who try to neutralize him or gun him down early. Again, Saqib Mahmood versus Sanju Samson. Also at the death, he's pretty effective. So he will be a good bowler to watch out for. And like we know the entire history about Sky and Archer as well, the way Sky announced himself into the international circuit. And with Archer having, a score to settle because he's been away from, India or, to perform in India or IPL related conditions, I think he would want to prove himself in this particular game or also in the series ahead.
Okay, Big Joff Raja has a score to settle as per Orko. Okay, fair enough. Moving into the predicted playing 11 now. For you, Rohan, for India, I'll go with my predicted playing 11. Abhishek Sharma, Sanju Samson are my openers. Tilak Verma at 3. Surya Kumar Yadav at 4. Hardik Pandya 5. Rinku Singh at 6. Akshar Patel, Nitish Kumar Reddy, Mohammad Shami, Varun Chakravarti, and Arshdeep Singh are the remaining players. No Ravi Bishnoi, according to me.
Akshay Patel, Nitish Reddy. I'm not sure about Reddy coming in straight away though. I think they can use one more spinner, maybe like or even a fast bowler in Harshit Rana, maybe just to give them
Arshit.
that
Okay.
flexibility because of the knowledge of the local conditions. Harshit can be a pick for you, or even a Washi Sundar just because of his power play exploits as well and giving that batting depth. Nitish Reddy is still a work in progress. I think he should be groomed in the series, maybe not play all 5 games here and there, depending on the conditions. He can come in, but as at Kolkata, I feel somebody extra experienced like Harshit Rana, who bowls those cutters and those kind of skill sets will be more useful for Kolkata. Maybe during the course of the series, the others can come in and replace Harshit as well. But to start with, I think pretty much the 11, as you said, but just that one change I feel will be okay.
Okay, so Harshit Rana for Nitish Kumar Reddy, according to you, Orko, you're also agreeing with the same. Moving into England, I'll give it to Hardik for England playing 11. Then, if you have any tweakers for India, you can add it on out there. Ben Duckett and Phil Salt are the openers, according to me. Josh Butler at 3, Jacob Bethel at 4, Harry Brook, Liam Livingston at the middle orders. And I'll go for Jamie Overton, Bryden Carr, Saqib Mahmood, Adil Rashid, and Jofra Archer. Expecting you to say Rihanna Ahmed, please.
No, I think yes. While Adil Rashid has always been like the old dog there, he's been there from a very long time and been playing very successfully for England. I think in England, given that Rehan Ahmed played in West Indies and had a reasonably successful run on wickets where you have these 200 run totals, England might want to try him out in a game or two. But I think one of the other, again, it depends on their opening combination. If the wicket has a little bit of bounce in it, they'll want someone like Mark Wood. They may not want to stretch him for all the 5 games, but I think Mark Wood on a surface where you're having some amount of bounce, it will unsettle some of the opening batters in the 4 or 5 overs that the new ball is slightly hard. I think that's the only option that I can potentially see changing. But outside of that, I wouldn't want to disturb whatever you have put as the combination. Similarly, for your India combination, I agree with Rohan. Instead of Nitish Kumar Reddy at that position, I would definitely try and play someone like Ravi Bishnoi, and the opportunity, and again with someone like Mohammad Shami, though he's somebody who plays for Bengal. I think Harshit Rana would be like a good addition because I would definitely want Arshdeep Singh, because sometimes as an Indian fan, I get troubled when I see who's going to bowl the 19th over, because we always lose games in the 19th over. So Arshdeep is a good death bowling option. He's also been
Absolutely.
through that curve of the 19th over. But yes, I think if Reddy has to play, I would actually play him much higher up the batting order. And I want to see Surya actually bat at 3. I know Tilak Verma has recently done well at that particular position. But for someone like Surya to be really, really effective, he started off being a number 3 player. I'd want to see Surya at
Correct.
3. And, and then I think we have enough batting depth. So to be someone like Tilak Verma or Nitish Kumar Reddy, depending on what kind of combination we want to go with, I think we'll have to change. They're not automatic starters in my 11. Even someone like Tilak Verma who's done well, because I think if Surya bats at 3 and then you have a decent all-rounder base, that's the only way you can have somebody like Ravi Bishnoi, who's very tough to hit in those 200 type surfaces. So you need to have bowlers who are gun bowlers who will make sure that, because you don't have Bumrah, and you'll have to also understand that
Mhm.
what are the other means in which you can reduce. And Akshar Patel is an excellent bowler. We've seen that even in the earlier series versus New Zealand in 2022. Akshar won a couple of games with his
Correct.
bowling. So just because I've observed this whole, I don't know, I've not seen any matchups, but it's just visual this thing that these two guys bowled well. Akil Hussain and Gurukesh Mooti bowled well. I'm curious to see how Akshar Patel would go through, and he could be a a more important cog in our link, because we're looking at Varun Chakravarti or Harshit Rana because of the Kolkata KKR angle. But everything depends on the surface. So yeah, I think this would probably be the 11. Just that I
Oh,
wouldn't
also,
complete.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Just that I said I wouldn't automatically guarantee Tilak Verma a starting place in each of the 5 games.
Okay, that's fair enough. You want to see Sky at number 3, and also Akshar Patel is your vice captain this side as well. Fair enough. So all three of you have given your thoughts on the predicted playing 11. Moving on to the predictions time now, ladies and gentlemen. Orko, starting with you, who leads the series?
Well, I think definitely India have a strong chance, and of course, the track pretty much favors our kind of gameplay, and we have a better bowling lineup. I believe. I think we can certainly counter the big guns coming in from England, and I think if we bat second, it would perhaps help because Eden is more of a chase friendly track, and that's perhaps going to be a deciding factor. The toss, so the toss wins the match, to be honest, and I hope India gets through the toss, and I certainly believe they have a good chance to win the game as well.
Okay, so you're going for India leading the series. Similarly for you, Rohan, is it India the same?
Yeah, I agree with Orko. I think India should win the series, considering the bowling might that we have, slightly better than England. I feel that's where the runs, because runs, I think the batters are pretty much equal both sides. It's just who bowls better on that day and concedes a few lesser and pick up more wickets. I think that's where the games can be decided. And having a Chakravarti and Arshdeep who can be good with the new ball, I think that's where a slight edge comes to India. Yes, England are competitive with the Jofra Archer or Saqib Mahmood, as he said, but I feel India, because of the knowledge of the local conditions, have that little extra one up. So I think if we can push that limit a little extra, I think we can go all the way. In spite of either losing the toss or winning the toss, chase a bat first. I think India has the advantage here.
Okay, so for now, I'll take both of them saying India lead the T20 series 1-0, expecting something different from you, Karthik.
Well, I was just saying England are marginally ahead of this particular Indian side. India has right now got a lot of confidence from beating Bangladesh. Also, they've beaten South Africa, but South Africa is also a team in transition post the T20 World Cup. They're not their strongest, and I think this is where I feel England, as a daredevil T20 side, they have it in their DNA. India has just put this in our DNA only after Gautam Gambhir has come. We are a very safe T20 side.
Hmm,
So I think
correct.
when it comes to chase, and by the way, I know you're seeing IPL stats and saying that because surfaces are slightly different sometimes for IPL than it is for international cricket.
International
Kolkata average, from what I thought in T20s, if you look at the last 10 years, about 140 or 150. I
Absolutely,
don't.
yeah.
That's the rough average of totals in Kolkata. So if you actually have an even game, 140, 150 type of a game, I think England are ahead. Maybe if you have a 200 type game, depending on who's bowling second in due, it could change. So my single England is about maybe 55-45 ahead 1-0.
55-45. 1-0 for England, 55-45, while the remaining two says India. Thank you so much, all three of you. It was a wonderful session kickstarting the T20I series. So they have made their predictions. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know your predictions as well in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the Fifth Umpire, press the bell icon as well. First T20 all the way from the Eden Garden. Sit back and enjoy. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.